Yeah, so winding up on the Bhagavad Gita, and then when we finish that, we'll proceed to the Bodhicharya Avatara 623. So before we go on, were there any comments or questions arising out of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 1?
James, I'm sorry, you might have covered this while I was away, but this word for pity or compassion, kripaya,
Kripaya, yes.
isn't one I'd come across before. Did you talk through the root of that, or what the origin of that is?
Actually, yeah, I did. I forget who it was who raised it last time. And I was slightly caught out because I hadn't investigated the route, but I did trace it back subsequently. Thanks for bringing this up to Indo-Europe. Normally, the word for compassion in the Buddhist sense is karuna, which is the word we use in the Brahma Viharas and so on. But kripa is more of a word meaning pity. It doesn't have the same kind of broad spiritual sense of karuna. It's more has the meaning of pity, and it's actually traceable back to an Indo-European root. The old Indo-European root means kind of something like wailing or moaning, lamenting. So it's a lamentation or moaning originally, and then lamentation on behalf of another. So there is the root. Hang on. So I'll just share screen with you one moment. Call it up. Share screen. Screen one. Share. Here we are. So this it's this root here, the krip, to mourn or to lament, and from there we get the direct derivative kripa. So it's the feeling of pity or sadness, and in this particular case, it's seeing that the destruction that he is going to have to wreak upon his family and friends and teachers. As I say, it's a lot less used than karuna, and more pity than compassion.
Thank you.
Right. So was there anybody who didn't get a chance to recite this verse last time? Oops, sorry, I'm just about to bring it up for you. Anybody who didn't get a chance last time and would like to do it this time?
Shall I volunteer before you volunteer me?
Thank you for volunteering yourself before you got volunteered by me, I think, Paladin.
Oh, could you make it a tiny bit bigger? Sorry,
Yes, of
or I
course.
could put my glasses on, actually, that might help. Set that up. Thank you. Tam tata kripaya vishta mashrup purna nakuleshanam.
Sorry, I've got the Devanagari in this. Well, this should help you more. Unless you particularly wanted to read it off the Devanagari, did you, Paladin?
I probably could at a stretch, but very slowly.
Okay.
Tam tata kripaya vishtam ashru purna kuleshanam. Vishidantam idam vakyam uvacha madhusudanaha.
Very good, yes. So were there any more to go before we move on to the Bhagavad Gita? To the Bodhicharya Avatara.
James, would you mind just for me for you to read that, please?
For me to read it. Okay,
yes,
right.
Forward, please.
Yeah. Sanjaya Uvacha Tantata Kripaya Vishtamashrupurna Kulekshanam Vishidantam Idam Vakyam Uvacha Madhusudanaha. Should I do it once more very slowly?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, thank you.
Okay. I'll do it once more very slowly. Then Sanjaya Uvacha Tan Tatha Kripaya Vishtamashrupurna Kulekshanam Vishidan Tamidang Vakyamuvacha Madhusudanaha.
That sounds great. Thank you.
You may have noticed, those of you who are being very attentive to whether the syllables are light or heavy, that this one, we have the followed directly by a vowel. So that is a short a followed by a m, followed by a vowel. So this is necessarily short then. Short vowel, single consonant, immediately followed by a vowel. Amu. Vakyamu, vakyamu vacha, vakyamu vacha. Here we have the final M written as an anuswara with a dot underneath because it's followed by a consonant. This now becomes a heavy syllable. The vowel is still short, but it's a heavy syllable. Vishidantamidam vakyamuvacha. Amidam vakyam. Light and heavy. Yes, welcome, Mandira. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm late today.
Don't worry, Mandira. Don't worry. Very good of you to turn up at all. Lovely to see people coming back even late. Not to worry. By the way, we talk about light syllables, long vowels and short vowels. I think most of you know this already, but do remember that a long vowel, an a as opposed to a, e as opposed to e, always means a heavier syllable. Now, a short vowel, the syllable as opposed to the vowel will be heavy if it's followed by a consonant cluster, or if it's an anuswara, the idam vakyam, anuswara, that's followed by the. So, for example, ashru, it's a short a, but the syllable itself is heavy. It's two matras, two measures. Ashru. So in theory, you take double the length of time to say ash as you do to take ru. Ashru. And of course, this is vitally important in chanting because you've got to, if you get the length of syllable wrong, then you get out of step with everyone else. By the way, the words used by Sanskrit grammarians for light and heavy syllables. Light is laghu. Let me just call up iPad. Quite easy to remember. Laghu is light. And heavy is garu. And of course, laghu is directly cognate with our English word light. Light in the sense of not heavy, directly cognate. And we often see the g to v etymological change. The Latin word levis, meaning light. We have it in the sense of levity, meaning frivolousness, and levitation, lightening yourself and rising up. So it means like, and garu is actually cognate with the Latin word gravis, meaning heavy, from which we have gravity. Note, incidentally, what's the relationship between the words garu and guru? In the older language, you always found it garu. Garu meant heavy. That's the literal meaning of it. And by extension, heavy, weighty, important, respectable, to be respected, to be revered. These are the extensions of meaning of garu, from just physically heavy to worthy of veneration. The form of the word guru is just a variant of garu. So the word guru then, a word now we all know, meaning typically a spiritual teacher, originally started off life as garu, but then became specialized in this particular meaning of one who is to be revered. And we have an echo of that in Latin. If somebody has, we use the word gravitas, we use the word gravity, meaning the ordinary physical force of gravity. But we talk about somebody having gravitas, the sense of dignity, respectability. It makes you want to respect and pay attention to him if somebody has gravitas. So that meaning of the word gravitas exactly echoes the meaning of the word guru and the extended meaning of garu, somebody worthy of respect. But here, for light and heavy syllables, this is as a matter of prosody, the measuring of verse, just simply light and heavy. So, sorry, I've got a wrong text for you there. Oops, sorry, call it. Lost. Here we are. Here we are. So, for example, here, tan ta ta, tan ta ta. The is short, but the syllable is heavy because it's got an uswara followed by a consonant. Tan ta 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 ta, tan ta ta.
James, could I, I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but
No, please, Barry.
Could I just clarify the pronunciation of the N with a dot under?
Yeah. Where you what happens is where you get a word in Sanskrit, the rules are slightly different in Pali. But where you get a word in Sanskrit which ends in, so to speak, the grammatical M. In other words, it's a grammatical ending, like the accusative ending or the genitive plural ending, whereas the M is part of a grammatical ending. Which is almost always the case, by the way. It will be written here as this is thumb, as the ta with a dot. It then becomes just the nasal, and it means it is a nasal sound, as one that's pronounced with the mouth shut, but with the air coming exclusively through the nose, as with all of those sounds. There's no sound coming out of the mouth. It's all the sound coming through the nose. What happens then is it takes on the quality of the following consonant. So it would be written as tum ta ta, but pronounced as tan ta ta, because the nasal takes on the quality of the following ta. And equally, if the following sound is, say, a labial, a b or a b, it will have the quality. So that man in the accusative, tam purusham, not tam purusham. That person would be written as tam janam, with tan janam. So the nasal takes on the quality of the following sound. The reason we write it in this way is to reflect the Devanagari script, where that dot above the letter represents that sound. It's called the anuswara. Swara sounding a sound. Anuswara is literally the after sound, the following sound. Just means the final nasal. When you're writing, by the way, when this sound comes at the end of a line, or in the same sentence or line, there is no immediately following word, then it's just written as a full m, like that.
Yeah.
Ikshanam. So this is with the parsing. Ashrupurnakulekshanam. So it's written like that. But it wouldn't be written like that if if it's as part of a string of words with an immediately following word beginning with a consonant. And incidentally, in where this final nasal is in vishidantam, accusative of vishidan, despairing, vishidantam, it's followed by a vowel. So it retains the full m sound and is immediately followed by its vowel. And is so written in the Devanagari as well. This word here, vishidantamidam, this, see how it's written where I've highlighted there, is ni. The words run together. That's two words, vishidantam idam, vishidantamidam. So remember the anuswara, or the final M, followed by another, followed by a vowel, retains its just unchanged m quality.
Thank you. That's very clear. And what about the N for Nero with a dot? As in Purnakulekshanam, the N with a dot.
Oh, the N with a dot. Sorry, the N with a dot.
Yeah, but that was also very helpful and clear about the N. But what about the N as well?
Okay, so the final M with a dot is just, we use the dot to represent this anuswara, in other words, about the final M.
Yeah.
In some text, some Romanized text, the dot is written above the M, but that's, editorial choice. It makes some difference. But there's a series of letters. I'll just explain, open on the iPad. Come on, iPad. Keep losing icons. Here we are. Slip down to the bottom. There is a series of letters. There is what we call the dentals. And these are the ta, the, n, called dentals because they're pronounced with the tongue just against the back of the upper teeth. Ta, ta, tathagata, ta. There is a corresponding series of sounds which are represented in Roman script. And these are called the retroflex, because the tongue is curled back slightly. Maybe da, ta, da, na. So just by convention in Roman script, we write them with a dot underneath. But remember, that although we write them it's the same, in Roman script we use the same letters with a dot underneath, don't ignore the dot. It's very important. Because for the native speaker, the sounds da and da are totally different sounds. And the native speaker does not confuse those sounds. They're just completely different words, just in the same way as in English, we would never confuse between tinker and thinker, the t and the th, just two completely different sounds that the native speaker would never confuse. So equally, da, ba, ta, ta are two completely different sounds to the ear of the native speaker. So don't be put off by the small and apparently insignificant nature of the dot. It does represent a completely different sound.
That's very clear. Thank you very much, James. That's very clear.
So if you see here, this n that I'm highlighting there, that's the one that's represented by the M with a dot underneath. Have we got an N? So that's the N there. So you see in the Devanagari, and this final, that's a N. That's the dental N. That's the ones Madhusudana, and this is from the word Ikshana, with an N sound. But it's as important to distinguish those as it is, for example, to distinguish long and short vowels. You know, I can't overemphasize they are completely different sounds to the native ear. And it's that you see when I think it applies to most of the languages of India, certainly to Hindi speakers. When a Hindi speaker hears us pronouncing the English sounds t and d, those sound, the tongue for our English t and d are approximately halfway between where the Hindi speaker puts the tongue for the d and d. We put our tongue at halfway between those points.
Huh.
Now, native speakers in India hear us pronouncing da. So that's why when they're speaking English, I mean, ones who don't know English very, ones who know it very well, of course, pronounce it like the English. But why typically you might hear a speaker of an Indian language, including Hindi, pronouncing English words or da and a da, because that's how they hear us saying it. By the way, these sounds da are even more sharply differentiated down in Tamil Nadu. I remember when I first got out of the railway train on Madras station, hearing a da, it really sound even more distinct retroflex than you would hear among the Hindi speakers in the north. By the way, I should say, since we're on the retroflex, this s with the dot underneath, it's the same rule. That's a retroflex. With one slight caution now. Let me call up iPad again. Sanskrit has three sibilants, there's three sounds. There's the s, the ones that we write like this, the s, the ordinary s, exactly like the English s. Then there's a sh and a sh. Now, the sh is more of a palatal sound, sh, whereas the one with dot on it is more of a retroflex sound. Let me just write these in Devanagari. That's the, sorry, I haven't written that well. That's the s, and that's the sh, and that's the sh. For the Pali students among you, Pali no longer has, or a long time ago, it lost the sh and the sh sound. So anything that's a sh or a sh in Sanskrit tends to become a s in Pali. One word of caution. At some stage in the history of the language, the native speakers, and this is certainly true in North India, I'm going to invite correction from you in due course, Mandira, if I get this wrong. But whereas the Hindi speaker will still up to this day, very carefully differentiate between da and da and da, la, two completely different sounds. The two different varieties of sh tend to have become merged, and the modern speakers tend not to differentiate in pronunciation. I mean, for example, Mandira, am I correct in saying when you're speaking, you will very carefully differentiate between da and da, but not between sh and sh?
Yeah, the difference between the two shs is barely perceivable when we speak, when we use those two different shs.
Okay, right.
Of course, we can easily differentiate between two words that have t and th, or three
Yes.
words.
Yeah.
Words
because
spelling.
yeah, that they're still completely different sounds, whereas the two shows have become blurred.
Absolutely.
And you will see this actually in some words where there's actually, so to speak, written evidence of it. So, for example, the word kusha, for example, which is correct? The answer is, in modern Hindi pronounced kush, the answer is that in modern times, so you will see both spellings. Both spellings are regarded as correct in modern times, which is kind of an indication that at some stage in the development of the language, people can no longer bothered with the distinction. Mostly they do, but there are certain words where either spelling is right. So the word either kosha or kosha, I think I even forget which it was in Sanskrit now. Let's see what Moni Williams has to say on that. It actually originally meant a vessel that contains something, or a cup. Eventually came to mean a storehouse of something. Incidentally, in modern Hindi, for a dictionary, is shabdakosh, which is a kosh of words, this container of words. Okay, look, even in classical literature, look, kosha or kosha, with both forms. Even at a very early time, they tended not to be differentiated. Right, back to our text. Right, any more arising out of that? And we can get on to the Bodhicharya Avatara. Right, Bodhicharya Avatara coming up. So, Anishyamanamapyeta chulamutpadyate yatha Anishyamanopi balat krodha utpadyate tatha. And again, Anishyamanamapyeta chulamutpadyate yatha Anishyamanopi balat krodha utpadyate tatha. So just remember from the previous verse, Shantideva's telling us about not react, not get upset with people who do something nasty to you. Basically is saying, look, you might have things going wrong in your body that cause you pain. Okay, you do whatever you need to do, but you don't get angry with it. Something has just happened that causes pain. It's kind of silly to get angry. It's happened. And he's saying, apply the same to somebody else, to another person who's getting angry at you, doing something unpleasant to you, because that person too is just acting through causes. He's obviously speaking about somebody who, a lesser degree of self-control, as it were, but that person is just acting through causes. So just as a pain can arise in you, so anger can arise caused by something. So, etat chulam, or yatha, here we see the correlation yatha tata, means as and thus, or just as something happens, so in the same way something else happens. That's the yatha tata. So yatha, just as, etat shulam. Note the sandhi here. The ta, the final ta followed by a sh becomes a doubled ch, etachulam. And that's how it's written here, see? Tachu, a doubled ch. Etachulam, etachulam. Before I'd studied this rule properly, I wasted quite a bit of time looking up words in dictionaries, just having failed to separate out the sandhi. So anishyamana means unwanted. It's from the, this is a very good example of these words that sometimes cause confusion to the foreign learner. And they see a word like anishyamana, this kind of long word. You're told, okay, it means unwanted because you're told it means unwanted, but in fact, every single part of it can be broken down. It makes a logical sequence, one of the beauties of Sanskrit. Let's just call up iPad again. Using my icon. The root is ish, meaning to want. It survives in English, but in English, it just happens that we put a w in front of it. So the Sanskrit root ish is exactly the same as our English wish. Now,
I take it, James, sorry to interrupt, itch isn't related?
you mean as in ichami?
Well, as in, is it related to ish?
It is indeed. It is a slightly irregular verb, but slightly irregular, because in the present tense, in the present tenses, the sh becomes a ch. So, I want is not ishami, but ichami.
What I meant was the English word itch.
Oh, sorry. I didn't. I thought about the Sanskrit icha, the root ich. Okay. I don't know. I hadn't thought about that.
Because you can sort of, an itch can mean a want or a like or a need. It
can indeed, yes. And there's the old phrase, I don't know if it's used, the 7-year itch. But that's an interesting point. I hadn't thought of that. The answer is I do not know, but I'll look it up between this session and the next.
Doesn't that come through, or at least I know scratch does and etch does. It's through kr, isn't it, to plough and then to.
Well remembered, Paladin. Yes, well, I'll come
And
to that.
And then the word for character being that's etched on. It's just one of those little rabbit holes that's stuck in my head.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's really a fun rabbit hole. But if I'll go through with it because it's one of my favorite bits of etymology. That how unexpected things come up, but then you can suddenly relate them all together. So, ish, to wish. It makes its present tense ichami, ichati, ichasi, ichami. It makes a noun icha, meaning a want, a desire, which word I think is used in modern Hindi, is it not, Mandira? And icha, a desire?
Yes, we use it very often.
Okay, very good. So the icha from that same root. Now, note, this is very important here. Many of you will have remembered. Ish, ichami, slightly irregular because the sh becomes a ch in the present tense. Okay, we can cope with that. A bit like sometimes it happens like gum to go. You don't say gamati, it's gachati. Just these slight irregularities occur. We are, from here, let's make a passive form. So ish, he, she, it wants ichati, right? Now, it is wanted, it is desired. We now make a passive. What happens to create the passive? You put the ya. Now, this is the passive stem, ishya. It is desired, it is wanted, is ishyate. Let's now make a passive participle out of this, and it becomes, using again the passive stem, ishyamana. Ishyamana, meaning something that is desired, a desired thing. This suffix mana is the present passive participle ending, something that is wanted. We actually do have a survival in English via Greek. Words ending in mena, for example, lego in Greek means I say, prolego, say in advance, prolegomena are things said in advance, prolegomena, neuter plural in Greek, things said in advance, therefore preparatory remarks, prolegomena. And it's that same menos in Greek is mana in Sanskrit. So ishimana then we can see is desired. Now let's just negate that by prefixing a, which of course becomes an before a vowel, anishyamana, undesired, unwanted. So anishyamana mapi, undesired indeed. Etat shulam, this pain, utpadyate, arises. By the word, the word shula originally meant, it could mean either a thorn or a spike. That was the original, a physical thing that gets stuck in your flesh. And then by extension, it meant a sharp pain, as if you had been, you got a spike, being stabbed by a spike, or a thorn had come in. So let me just call up this word here. Sharp iron pin or stake, or any sharp instrument, yeah. And then a sharp or acute pain. And then, as we so often find in Sanskrit, some meanings that you can't quite, why shula should mean yoga, I do not know, but there we are. It's some, don't worry about that. The main thing is sharp iron pin or stake, and then by extension, a sharp pain. And this word is, it's quite frequently used in Buddhist texts to indicate a pain and how you deal with pain. And remember that this form of pain, the shula form of pain, is often distinguished. In fact, often the word is deliberately used to distinguish it from dukkha. The idea being that some actual real pain is inevitable in life, but the dukkha, on Pali dukkha, Sanskrit dukkha, is what we mentally load on top of it. So we have the unavoidable pain, and which is often described, often the word either shula, or another word, pida is another word meaning pain. Let me write them down for you. So shula and also pida. Both of these words, I say, mean pain, but in the sense of the pure, unavoidable pain. And they're often used in Buddhist literature to distinguish it from the kind of the mental or existential anguish that we load on top, the unenlightened mind loads on top of it. Even a Buddha will suffer shula or pida, but he won't suffer the dukkha because of his relationship with shula and or pida is such that he doesn't increase the suffering by his mental response to it. So shula and pida is very often differentiated from dukkha. And just to remind you, remember in Sanskrit this is dukkha with the visarga, where in Pali it becomes dukkha with a double K. So dukkha and dukkha, respectively, Sanskrit and Pali. And of course, this is a vital distinction that is being made constantly in the Buddhist texts. The difference between the ordinary unavoidable pain that everyone's going to get and the dukkha that you load on top. Yes, please, Mandira.
I was wondering if the word anisha is the same as anicca. Does it have the same, does it connote anicca, not having any desire? It's just confusing for me because there are a number of women here who have this name Anisha here in India.
Yes, in fact, it's a boy's name as well, Anish, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's in the masculine form. I think it's a boy's name as well, Anish.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yes, it's yeah, that has slightly puzzled me because in fact it's a different sh. That is the palatal sh. So Anisha, initially when I saw that name, I thought it meant something like godless, which is a rather immoral quality in English. Godless, you godless creature. But it means one who has no superior, one who does not have an Isha, a lord. So it's the same Isha as Ganesh, the Gana Isha, Ganesh. That's with the palatal, the sh. I used to know that you have a word in Hindi to distinguish between those two forms of sh. When it's called papusha, is it?
Sorry, which?
In here, I remember the phrase back from the 1960s. I don't know if the word is one of the forms of sh you distinguish as saying the papusha.
Patusha, sorry.
Papush. That could be, no, I might have got that from a Marathi speaker. Sorry, may not be used. You have a way in Hindi when you're telling which shut do you mean. You used to have little word to differentiate between them.
Okay, so we usually call it pet katasha. Pet as in the belly, and which is diagonal. So which is piercing the belly. A diagonal is piercing the belly. So we call it pet katasha.
Pet katasha.
Yes.
Okay.
And the other sh we call Shankar wala sh.
Shankar wala sh. Okay.
It's just a very in common parlance.
So the pet katasha, the belly cut sh is like the and the other one is the Shankarwala sh.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Professor Viren, I was wondering if this word Anish doesn't seem to be having a positive meaning. Why would anybody name their child Anish or Anisha?
Yeah, it's wonderful. Maybe it means there's nobody better than him. Nobody is lord over him. But even so, there's some kind of moral connotation. Hang on, you're trying to say you're absolutely better than anybody else in the entire world. just tone it down a bit, give an auspicious name, but tone it down a little bit. You might as well call your son Supreme God of the Universe. Slightly inauspicious name to rather could attract some unwanted attention. But yeah, I have been puzzled by that. Let's just see if it does exist in with Anisha. So, no matches. Okay, so with the Anisha, with the Shankaravasha, I'm slightly puzzled by that name.
So
James, can I
most likely, I think what they mean by Anisha, when you showed the other word, is Vishnu, which I just read. So the other meaning of Anish is Vishnu. So Anisha would, by extension, it would mean the wife of Vishnu, or maybe Vaishnavi.
Oh, that's it. Oh, yes. Look, Vishnu. Yeah. So Anisha, Vishnu is Anisha means there is without a lord. In other words, there's nobody superior to him. He's lordless. There's nobody is above him. So Vishnu's wife then would be, the feminine form would be Anisha.
Right.
That's perfectly understandable. But I knew one personally, an Indian boy called Anish.
Yeah, but it makes sense. I mean, I think what you're saying is if Vishnu does not have a lord or a superior. So therefore, if it does mean Vishnu, then it also makes sense that they call their kids Vishnu or Anisha.
So it doesn't make sense, you say?
It makes sense. It does make sense. If Anisha means Vishnu, because Vishnu does not have a lord or a superior, then it makes sense that you would use it for your kids. I think that's what you guys are saying.
Okay, right. Yeah, I mean, one can understand that. Yeah. I mean, some boys are given names of gods. Anila in Sanskrit is the god of the wind. I mean, some boys are given, and girls, I think, are given divine names.
And if we don't get into this aspect that there has always been a rivalry between Vaishnavism and Shaivism, I mean, Vishnu is the creator of the universe. So perhaps in that sense, nobody else is superior than him.
Oh, right. So they'll use that word just to say that our branch of Hinduism, the Vaishnavas, are rather superior to the Shaivas and so on.
Yeah.
Is that what you meant?
Yeah, what I mean to say is that since Vishnu is seen as the creator of the universe, so in any case, there cannot be anybody who is above him or superior to him, because he created the universe. So he's the Lord in that sense. So probably that meaning also flows into this word.
Okay, I follow your point. I follow your point.
Can I just guess? Yeah, I understand it too. Thank you. Can I just ask, what does Isha mean?
Isha?
Yes.
Isha is generally any kind of god or lord.
Okay.
And we have the Indian god Ganesh, it's pronounced nowadays. It's Gana. Gana means a herd or a group, and specifically animals or animals collectively. And the Gana Isha, by something as Ganesha, in modern Hindi, Ganesh, is lord of the herds. In other words, the god of the animals. Whether like in Greek mythology, Pan, the god of the animals.
Yes.
It's the one that's represented in Hindu iconography as the elephant.
Yes, get it completely. Thank you.
So the Isha just means generally a god or a lord. And also, as an abstract noun, you can have Aishwarya, which means lordship. As the
Ishvara.
state. Sorry?
Ishvara comes up.
Yes, sorry, that's right. So Isha, let me just mark it right on the iPad. So you have Isha, God or Lord. You can also have an extended word, Ishvara, which is a more generalized meaning, just the lord of something, often in a human sense. And you make an abstract noun out of that by vriddhi of the first syllable, aishvarya. So aishvarya will mean lordship, the status of being the lord or completely in control of something. Now, do we have a root ish? Ah, you see. I'm just looking up this root. Go back to the roots, you see. Root ish. Remember, this is the different. This is the Shankaravala sha. This is the palatal sha. So ish, to own or to possess, is the original meaning, and therefore by extension to be the lord or the god of some, to rule or reign, master. Oh goodness me. Oh God, agan, to have an agan, one's own. Oh goodness me. So even in English, one's own. In German, it would be eigen. From that same root, the idea of owning, possessing, and therefore ruling and having power. Oh, and a name of Shiva as well. So if the Anisha means Vishnu, then the Ish as a master or lord, supreme spirit, also means Shiva. So there we are. Distinguish that in your minds between Ish, long E, and Shankaravala. Ish, meaning originally ownership, rulership, possession, and the short I with the Betkatasha, with the meaning the retroflex sh, which means to want. So,
not to belabor this point, but is this quite a common thing in Pali and Sanskrit that a word could have very opposite meanings depending on its context? It's like the one side it's saying lord or not having a lord, in other words, making as if this person is better than everything else, but in the other one they're saying powerless, that kind, and it's the same word.
Yeah, that actually does occasionally. Well, yeah, there are several Sanskrit words that do have opposite meanings. And there are numerous words that when negated, can become a little bit ambiguous. Let me give you one very good example, which is valid for both Sanskrit and Pali. You have so this isn't exactly opposites, this is ambiguities. You have the word kinchana, which means something. I mean, that's the meaning of the word, something, kinchana. Same in Sanskrit and Pali there. Now, if you put the negating a in front of it, that negating a can have actually different effects, depending. It can either mean the opposite of something, so akinchana can therefore mean nothing. But this negating a can also be treated as a bahuvrihi compound, a possessive compound, meaning therefore not possessing anything. So the word akinchana means either nothing or possessing nothing. And this word akinchana is used in the description of some of the higher meditative states where you go beyond the feeling of possessing things, of owning things, and it belongs to the higher meditative jhanic states. It makes its abstract noun in akinchanya. So akinchana then would mean an adjective not having anything or nothing, and the akinchanya then is the abstract noun, which either means the state of not possessing anything or nothingness. And this actually has caused, again, we almost get to the kind of ambiguous opposites that Shaolin raised there, because in some of the Pali suttas describing what they call the arupa jhana, the formless jhanas, you have I think it's the highest one is or the eighth one, is the akinchanyayatana, the realm or the sphere of akinchanya. Now, does the akinchanya there mean nothingness, like a nihilistic oblivion of nothing? Or does it mean you've reached that state where there is nothing that you say is mine, my body, my things, my perceptions? In other words, you've risen above the sense of I to the state of pure unattached consciousness. Now there you see you have rather a stark ambiguity of meaning. Is it a nihilistic nothingness? Or is it a state where you are beyond clinging to notions of I and mine? Linguistically, both are equally valid. And the structure of the language will equally support both interpretations. And I've seen arguments happening about which is it. I mean, my personal preference, I'm perfectly prepared to be told I'm wrong or inadequate. My preference is you are beyond the stage of my and mine, and this is mine, my body, my things, my life. But I'm quite prepared to be told that the other one is right. Or maybe this interpretation of nothingness isn't quite what we mean in our ordinary. Maybe it does mean nothingness in the sense of nothing, no objective thing that you're grasping at. But here we're going a little bit beyond the sphere of linguistic analysis, and we're going into the higher jhanic spheres. Yeah. Yes, Mandira.
Is this concept similar to the concept of shunyata? Is it something? Does it cross paths?
Interesting you should raise that. My first reaction, and again, I'm not stating this, my first reaction is to say, well, not quite. Because shunyata has a specific meaning of emptiness. And as you can get some wonderful arguments going, you see people who are full of their own egos having wonderful arguments about the meaning of the word emptiness. The shunyata, so shunya means it's just originally it started life as just an ordinary word meaning empty, like an empty vessel. It was in India that our modern, that we use now, universal method of writing numbers was devised, an Indian invention, where one of the most important inventions in writing numbers was the use of the zero. Where, instead of when the Romans wanted to write 30, they wrote as 3 tens, you see, but Indians came up with a much cleverer way. You write 3 and then with a 0, so where it is in relation to the decimal place. So the 0 among the Hindu mathematicians was called the shunya, literally the void. And before I come back to Mandira's question, shunya, as I've said before, as I hope you all know by now, that the sh sound in Sanskrit very often turns up in Latin and Greek as a k, and the vowel sometimes changes. So in Greek, the word kenos directly cognate with the Sanskrit shunya. Kenos means empty in Greek. And you can make a compound in Greek, kenotaphos. The taphos is a tomb. So kenotaphos means an empty tomb. It's come into English via Latin, or via Greek, I should say, as cenotaph. So when we have Remembrance Sunday at the cenotaph, remember cenotaph, kenotaphos in Greek, and that kenos, Sanskrit shunya, it means the empty tomb, because it's the memorial to the dead. Nobody's actually buried there, which is why it's called the empty tomb. It means that there are no bodies there. It's just a memorial to those who have died. So now then, back to Mandira's point, the Buddhist doctrine of emptiness has been explained in lots of different ways. I don't feel qualified, just to sit here and tell you what it means, but the best explanation I've heard of it was actually by a Tibetan teacher who said the emptiness means it's empty of the qualities that we attribute to it, empty of a self, a sense of inherent selfhood that we attribute to things. And that it's empty of that, its own inherent self-nature. It's just a result of causes and flowing, ever fluid and changing causes and conditions give rise to a certain phenomenon that exists at the moment. Even the phenomenon of this body, I will attribute a selfhood to it. No, it's empty of that. It's just a series of changing physical manifestation of changing conditions. So whether nothingness and emptiness, you might say they're allied concepts, but I would say that in my thinking of them, that they are distinct things. So the akinchanya, nothingness, means there's nothing there at all, or you don't own anything. Whereas shunyata, you are, as it were, correcting an error of thinking. Look, you think there's a real I here, but no, it's empty of that. There is no I there. It's empty of a permanent self. That's my interpretation of it anyway. There's perfectly happy to be either told I'm wrong or guided further along the path.
Thank you so much.
James, thank you. Can I just ask a question?
Yes, please, Paula.
You mentioned the realm of Akinchanya.
Akinchanya, yes.
Yeah, what was that word, please?
The realm?
Yes.
Okay, that is...
The noun is Akinchanya, and then you said it was, I think you called it the realm, but it was that other word.
The realm or sphere or abode is ayatana. Ayatana.
It's a separate word.
Yes, it's the entire word is akinchanayatanam.
Yes, that's the one. That's the one you said. That's the one you said before.
Yeah. Incidentally, the way I've written it here is the Sanskrit way. In Pali, it's almost the same, except in Pali, it's written with a double nya. In Sanskrit, it's written with an n and a y as two separate consonants.
Could you write the one with the akinchayanatam, the longer one?
Okay, so I write it in Pali because the W. Akinchanayatanam. There's Akinchanya Ayatanam, by Santi Akinchanayatanam, literally the nothingness realm, or the realm of possessing nothing, of having nothing, calling nothing your own. Remember this.
What is this line you've crossed over the Sanskrit?
I'm sorry, say again, I didn't catch well.
Did you cross over the Sanskrit?
Yeah. What I've written this word in Pali here, Akinchanayatanam. The only difference is that this double nya, I've written it in Pali because that's the only place that I've actually seen this expression used. They're identical in Sanskrit and Pali, except that in Sanskrit, the nya would be written as a identical, except for the way that nya is written. So the nya is written like that in Sanskrit. That's the n plus ya, n and ya. Whereas in Pali, you have a double nya, which you never find in Sanskrit. By the way, we never find a double nya in Sanskrit, but you do in Pali very often.
Thank you.
Right.
James, at the risk of really pursuing this further, what's the derivation of ayatana then?
Ayatana.
Yeah, ayatana.
Okay. It means to something that you stretch towards or incline yourself to. It's your base that you want to go back to, your resting place. The root is yam. And it makes its past participle yata. And if it were a regular past participle, you'd expect to see yanta, but it becomes yata, it drops the nasal, just like gam, gata, for gone. So ayata means to stretch towards something or to incline yourself towards something, and make a noun out of it. Your ayatana is that you endeavor to get back to, your resting place, your base. And it's often used then in the Pali literature as like a sphere, in the sense of a sense sphere, the sphere of operation of the senses.
But isn't it used very much for the arupa jhanas?
So used in, I didn't catch that.
Is it not used for the arupa jhanas?
It is, yes. In fact, it's used. The ayatana is used in all of the arupa jhanas.
So is that in the sense of a resting place?
It's in the sense of a realm, not so much resting as a realm where things are, where things exist.
Okay.
I'm just calling up. This is what Monia Williams says. Ayatana. Okay, root meaning resting place, support, home, house, abode. Then the various other meaning, and then special meaning among the Buddhists. Just don't take Monia Williams as the final word, of course. He knew quite a lot about it, but it wasn't his special area of expertise. So the ayatanas are the realm, the spheres in which things operate. So the sense ayatanas. You have like sight, for example. You have the sphere or realm in which your faculty of sight operates, and the same with the other senses. And then by extension, a sphere or realm. But I've lost my Monia Williams. Where have you gone, Monia Williams? Oh, that's funny. I've lost him. There we are. Just call up the Pali one, the Pali English Dictionary. And there you see there's a much fuller explanation given in the Pali English Dictionary, because of this the much wider and more technical use of this word in Buddhist language than you find in traditional Sanskrit.
Thank you.
So you see a broad range of meanings for ayatana in Pali.
Thank you.
So back to where we were then. Etat chulam, this sharp pain, anishamanam arises. Okay. So yata, just as etat chulam, this sharp pain, utpadyate anishamanam, arises unwanted. This utpadyate, Pali uppadyati. So utpadyate literally comes up or goes up. It's the word meaning to arise. We have it in the phrase, the Pali phrase paticca samuppada, conditioned co-arising, which in Sanskrit is pratitya samutpada. So it's from that root pad, very primitive root, from the same root from which our English word foot comes from. So it's a verb, it means to go. So utpada, literally the upgoing, the meaning the arising, the coming into existence. And it's an atmanepada verb, so it's utpadyate. Class 4 atmanepada verb. So utpadyate, and the verbal noun is utpada, the arising, which in Pali, of course, by a regular phonetic mutation becomes uppada, whereas the t of the Sanskrit becomes the double P of Pali, utpada, uppada. So anishamanam apyetat chulam utpadyate yatha, just as etat chulam, this sharp pain, arises unwanted in the sense that the person who's experiencing the pain just happens to him. He didn't want it, it just happened. And shimanam utpadyate, unwanted, it arises. And the shimanopi. So, even in that same way, tata, thus, and shimanopi, thus in that same way, unwanted, krodha, anger, utpadyate, arises, balat. Balat. Bala literally means strength, power, like inner strength. Balat literally means from power or from force. It means somebody has done it to you. You haven't chosen it. It's some superior force has caused this to happen. So Shantideva here, he's, as it were, almost exonerating people who are getting angry. He's not saying anger's a good thing, don't worry about it, it just happens. What he's, remember, specifically saying here, if somebody else upsets you by being angry at you, the way to deal with that is not to get angry back. The way to deal with that is just to recognize that just as, you might get a sharp spike in you and suffer pain, equally, and you don't want the pain, it's just happened, equally, adopt the attitude, something has happened to that poor fellow that's, overwhelmed him, made him angry, treat it accordingly. Not as if he wanted to get angry, just this combination of forces led to it. So what we'll do then, it's just gone 3, so we'll wind up there and just finish off this verse when we meet next time. So I mentioned, I'm sorry, the next 2 Wednesdays I'm unavoidably away. So I'll send you a reminder notice, though I have emailed you all. So I will see you hopefully all in 3 weeks from now. With apologies for the long absence.
Thank you very much, James.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you all then.
Thank you,
Thanks for
James.
joining me.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
James.
Goodbye. Bye then.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks very much, James. Go on now.
Thank you.